I'm going to attempt in this video to show something that no one's, in my knowledge of, has ever done before. To begin with, this is human hair from an adult male, probably an average width, and I'm showing you this as a reference for the video that I'm going to make because there's going to be scratch patterns to compare it to on a razor blade, straight razor. Okay, so I'll take a photo of that hair there just for reference. Okay, so we have a photo of that over to the right in my little photo board. And I have a microscope where the hair is, and I have 3 stones here and a vintage Henckels razor. And I'm going to put 3 scratch patterns on this one razor blade so that you can see them all in one view. And it's going to be self-evident how I do this. So I'm going to set the asagi stone aside and the Shapton 500, and I have here a King 1000, and I'm going to create a scratch pattern on this blade on the back of the blade because I flip it over in the microscope like that. So I'm going to use a diagonal stroke with the toe leading, and it's going to create a diagonal scratch pattern that will be totally unique and visible in the microscope. Okay, that should do it. Okay, so remember that is toe leading. I'll set the king aside and bring in the Shapton. Now I'm going to go heel leading, and I'm going to index with my finger against the stone there a point in the blade where one scratch pattern is going to be going that way and the other from the Shapton 500 is going to be going this direction. So my finger is going to go against the side of the stone to just maintain a position on the blade where the alternate direction of the scratch pattern goes. I'm using just normal hand pressure, which is between 1 and 1.5 pounds. Okay, that should create the alternate scratch pattern. And what I'm going to show you next in the microscope is where these 2 scratch patterns meet. So here's the microscope, and I have a switch here that transforms the viewing from the microscope to the computer, and you'll see me in here. You can hear the clicking when I do that. Okay, so I'm looking for the blade now. Here it is. And now I'm looking, okay, here is the spot where the alternate directions go on the razor. Let me move that up into view a little bit. And I'll focus it. You can see the very dark 500 grit scratches. And there are some that are lighter, but those are from the Shapton. Those are the 500 grit scratches. This is the convergence where the king and the Shapton scratches meet. This is what the king scratches, 1000 grit scratches look like. It's a variety of scratch widths, but generally this is supposed to be a 1000 grit stone, and this is supposed to be a 500 grit stone. Okay, so we have that reference point, and there's a strong X pattern there to begin with. Okay, so I'm going to grab the Henckels, and we're going to come down here And I'm going to move the Shapton and the king out of the way here. And we have here Nakayama asagi stone. And I'm going to use a worn out Atma diamond plate to raise a slurry. It's a very mellow diamond plate at this point, so the slurry that it kicks up is sort of broken down. And this is a diamond plate I use often. Okay, so I'm going to put the slurry back up into position here. So I'm going to do, I did about 10 strokes on the king and the Shapton. Now I'm going to do about 10 strokes on this Nakayama. 1, 2, 3, and again, this is not, these are not really heavy pressured strokes, just the same 1 or 1.5 pounds of pressure. Okay, that's about 10 strokes. I'm going to wipe the blade off. And this is the same Henckels blade. Go back up to the microscope. And I'm going to bring into view that same convergence point on the blade here. Okay, and I see the X pattern. So my switch here, I'm going to switch it over to the computer. There's that X, the real dark X. Here, this was a Shapton 500 grit scratches over here. What's left of them. And I'll scroll back the other direction. And this is where the king scratches were going in the opposite direction. And that's focused in real tight there. I'll go farther over on the king side. We can look for darker scratches, but up here we don't see any. I'll go down and you can see remnants of what the king scratches used to look like, but they're just shadows right now. Here is the base of the bevel where it meets the hollow ground area. I'll scroll over to where the Shapton scratches would have been. There's actually right here is the convergence point where those two scratch patterns met, and this is down at the base of the bevel where the hollow ground grinding comes into play. So you can see on the right the scratches from the king, and the ones on the left are from the Shapton. But I'll scroll over farther and you can see this is where the Shapton 500 grit scratches are more distinct down here. I'll scroll up to the bevel. Let me scroll up to the bevel. My computer program has stalled somehow. Okay, wait. Okay, here we are. Okay, okay, so there, those are the Shapton scratches. We're going to go up to the, here is the edge. There are those Shapton scratches, and I'll scroll over to the convergence point again, looking for that X pattern up here. Okay, what I'm demonstrating all along here, this is where our convergence was here. There's that X. What I'm demonstrating here, 10 strokes on the Nakayama with slurry, removed that portion of the scratches that were very bold from before and now essentially are all gone, except for very shallow, I call them shadow scratches. They're not distinct scratches anymore, but they're just the deepest part of a previous scratch that was there. But importantly, right at the very edge, the Nakayama scratches have totally obliterated the Shapton and the King scratches, as you can see. We have a nice straight line. And this is in 10 minutes, a demonstration of the cutting power of that particular stone, which I think is pretty enormous with just 10 scratches. And this may give you some idea on how few strokes it takes to remove 500 grit or 100 grit scratches. With another 10 strokes on this Nakayama, you wouldn't see even these shadow scratches anymore. Okay, so that's the end of my video.